thing is a hard little pig to tune sometimes. But when it gets in the spot and it gets in the pocket,
You hungry, Uncle Bill?
no man, I'm well fed.
We get food in front of you now. Another slice? I'll get it for you.
By the way, I'm live streaming.
Huh?
I'm live streaming on my festival channel.
Yeah.
It's
It
called-
sounds like Grateful Dead, like that.
It's called, I think I titled it Crickets, Peepers, Down at Joe's.
So where's your phone?
What's that?
Your phone's here now?
Yeah, my phone's right there. I'm leaning up against the fishing pole.
Oh, great.
Coffee chat. Coffee
I
talk.
was just thinking about how it sounds like so like a performance. Now I know why you're.
Little guitar playing, little conversation. But we're rolling, so don't say anything you're going to regret.
Nice job. That's still on?
Yeah, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
chat.
We can have a conversation.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's chat.
We'll ask you about Jerry Garcia.
Yeah.
Because that's very Jerry Garcia tonight for me.
Is it?
Not that it's the same,
Yeah.
but it's like this long form, incredible. You can't put your finger on what it is, but it's like, you know what I mean? You can't underestimate what that is.
Jerry Garcia.
No, but
was
well,
the
you're
top
gonna.
of- No, he was world class.
Yeah, what was his secret?
Timothy Leary, CIA. LSD.
Yeah, because it was.
Um, I think I think he participated in one of the coolest thought experiments that was set out on the road. Um, I think there was a lot of people taking notes, despite the people that were losing their minds for the afternoon at one of the shows. But in terms of social sciences and the Stanford kids and all that,
How come he could play like that? Where did he come from? Because you think of him as a sort of guy with the hippie thing going.
bluegrass roots, um, folk, Appalachia, um,
He
and then
practiced.
mixed, and all of a sudden Neil Young joins the band with his electric guitar, which he didn't, but in a figurative way, sort of
You
a blend of acoustic and electric, and so Deadheads are pretty dedicated.
and incredible. I heard Bob Weir say something. Well, I just saw it on Twitter. Just an interview. They were talking about the tapers and all the people who taped in the shows.
Oh, they encourage bootlegs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but one of the things he said to Bob Weir, well, why would you do that? And he said something very interesting that I've never heard an artist say before. He said, well, we didn't really make good records. He said, we made really good shows, right?
right.
I'd never heard anyone ever admit that before.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Well,
it was a weird thing for him to say, but
they did do very good shows, and there was a lot of room um, for flow and ebb and flow and improv and craziness,
yeah,
which and Zappa, same sort of idea. Even though he recorded everything, I don't think there was a time he.
there's another guy with those clips they show on Facebook and that. Incredible. Both of him, he and Garcia are very interesting people. The stuff they say, like they're like cerebral as all,
Well, Zappa. I mean, referring to him in that.
Zappa,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he's very honest and
Yes,
just
but he wasn't, and he wasn't really speaking over anyone's head. I
no,
mean, some might have had to sort of sit up and
right.
take notice for a bit, but his stuff was pretty sort of linear, sort of,
Yeah.
not a lot of salt and pepper on it, pretty straight up meat. Like he,
But
like
you ask him a question, he gives you an honest answer.
right. But the thing was, he had many opinions on things because he paid attention. Like, you saw the whole. Like I saw an old interview with him the other day, in the early '90s, and Fox had just sort of joined the fray. NBC, CBS, ABC, but they weren't quite yet a network. So they were sort of just coming in, but the best programming was on Fox, like The Simpsons, um, Family, not The Family, that would come much later.
Family Guy,
The
no.
one with Al Bundy and Christina Applegate, Married with Children. Zappa had a great commentary on Married with Children. Like, he didn't watch that show because it wasn't his thing, or his kids. They watched it in living color, I guess he said. But Married with Children at the time, it was the assault on the father. It was on the patriarch. Every show on TV from the 50s was really an assault on patriarchy. And by the time Al Bundy comes along with Married with Children in the early 90s, yeah, Peg, he kicks his feet up, and she's got the hairdo and the whole sort of. There's no need to go in and explore the archetypes of that show, but it was how many he knew lots of Ted Bundy. He knew lots of Al Bundys, not Ted Bundy's, Al Bundys. But didn't we all? You know. And anyway, so he had a very sort of keen eye on the sort of the social strata of the '60s and how disco came along, and it was not about music anymore. It was about fashion, and it was about and it was and of course he was right there live and at it for the PRMC hearings with.
The disco thing is an interesting conversation too because when you listen to it now, you hear it here or there. It was pretty good. It was better than it got credit for.
So you're
So
right.
what is the story there? Like,
So,
yeah,
but it was all of that funk
yeah,
and cool swing notes and all that stuff was all done in the service of the glitter ball and the dance
yeah,
moves, and it was about providing a soundtrack for people that wanted to sort of wear fashionable things under
But it
glam.
wasn't computers, right? Like there's people
No, no,
playing
no,
on.
no. Those
Yeah.
guys, those mofos could play. So when I was in England, I met one of my clients in Liverpool was Eddie Amu from a band called Real Thing, which none of us heard of over here. But I meet his wife first, and then he comes in and we talk some business, and I think they ended up buying out. They bought a hot tub anyway. But he was telling me about his history in the music world, and I haven't had some exposure of it over here. And so I go online and I look up Real Thing, and one of the songs that Real Thing did was "Can You Feel the Funk?" All right, it was based on the Force of the Star Wars. So Star Wars '78 and Real Thing, Eddie Amu, and one of the vocalists, his brother, I think, has this voice that sounded just like to me Ike Willis from Frank Zappa. Why does it hurt when I pee? You know, et cetera, et cetera. And like, and there's no one that's got that textured, sort of silky, sort of smooth voice like Ike Willis. But here's this guy with Real Thing, this British band, and they were like top of the pops, and they were like, you know, England's ABBA for a while disco was hot. Anyway, neat enough. But the musicality in the stuff I was listening to, because I got to know it a bit, was oh yeah, it's top drawer. I mean, you're talking. Well, if, I'm not sure where Rick James fits into the disco thing, if he ever fit at all, but he was around at the time.
Right.
And the stuff they were doing, I don't know. Maybe some of those disco guys, you know, listen to some Rick James and then, you know, put some higher heels on it.
I don't know.
So what was the question about disco?
Just about the musicality.
Musicality. Yeah.
It's treated like it's some sort of like a venereal disease or something.
It was
But it actually when you actually
Like
you know,
it's
if you could separate that,
disco in the club. Syphilis.
Yeah.
Tune in at 11. We have a connection.
that's what it seems like. But yet you listen to it and you go, oh,
Well,
music, like the bass is going and
well, sort of. In some people, when you say disco, they get the same sort of visceral reaction, like, you know, that time they're at somebody's wedding and 20 people were doing the Macarena.
right.
You know. But so I was a kid during that. As were you?
Yeah, but I tuned it out because it wasn't cool for me. So
I wasn't going to Studio 54 or whatever. You know what I mean? It was not part of the disco thing. It was above it. And I was looking backwards in the 60s through the 70s carrying forward. The closest thing I had to contemporary stuff was Supertramp. You know, it was played on and stuff like that, Aerosmith and Blue Oyster Cult.
I remember when I was a kid, I heard the song. Maybe I was about 15 or something. I was already kind of a little more than a kid, but it was Jerry Rafferty, Baker Street, with the saxophone and you know that song Baker Street?
In a peripheral sort of way, like dimly coming out of a room somewhere at a bar down the street that I think I might go to because it sounds like it's open
Well,
and I might have a cold beer.
it's an incredible song, Baker Street. But it's got this saxophone in it, and I don't think it's from disco era. It's more of a kind of contemporary rock, but not real rock, like kind of. But I think that was in that era. But you don't ever hear like I think he was British, right, Jerry Rafferty. But he fits into that British style guy that you just mentioned there from what's called the
Real Thing.
I bet you those guys knew each other.
Oh, they would have sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real Thing. If you look that up, so they've got a discography that is considerable, and it wasn't all just. I don't think it was all disco, but they must have did something else when disco faded away into new wave.
I was just reading today about Oasis, and they're going to go on tour, and there's going to be in arenas and this and that.
Okay. So they're going back to the 90s?
I guess the music industry has gone back to the 90s.
And further.
And further, 80s. And all these bands like Def Leppard and Journey, and the Journey thing's breaking up. Like, those guys cannot get along. They don't like their millions of dollars. They all think if this guy's not in the band, that they're still going to be able to, sell out arenas and stadiums. And
The promoters are a little iffy on taking chances these days because for the young up and coming promoters that want to book very big types of arenas, for say like the Suns or whatever, and for stuff that is charting, playing, and getting lots of likes,
they're playing at
anything can happen any minute. The rug could be pulled out their feet and they'll lose their shirt. And so the promoters are going with the REO Speedwagon and all the nostalgia sort of, get on the Carnival Cruise Line and hang out with REO Speedwagon. It could be a fun time for 2 weeks, not.
but like the tour that this summer, the tours that are big are Stones, Springsteen, Journey, and Def Leppard. Those are the three winners. Aerosmith is retiring.
All that money that the boomers left to X, us.
And Taylor Swift, who's not a new artist.
Right.
Been around for a long time too. Not as long as those guys, but she's still not new.
Yeah, she's sort of manufactured, propped up, and she's got a whole publishing house writing her stuff. She's got Snoop Dogg doing everything. She's a
She's them, but
she is their caricature.
Yeah.
I mean, every sort of facet of what it is she does has been discussed, angled, lighting directions, everything, and it's like
oh, and Foo Fighters is the other one, and then Foo Fighters, they made fun of Swift because they played in London the same night that she played there, and Dave Grohl said that theirs is not the Eras Tour, hers is called the Eras Tour.
Right.
It's called the Errors Tour, and they said because we actually play our instruments. Now, I didn't like the dig. A lot of people thought it was fantastic and good for him. And I thought, well, wait a minute, that's arrogant because like musicians don't do that to each other. She's earned some props, for what she's doing, but he didn't give her any. And
well, is she doing an actual tour where she's selling tickets for fans and she's not singing through a PA system and the band's not playing?
I think
through?
she is, but I think that
well, if they said something to that effect, I mean, that would be pretty easy to. But she did recently do something for which she moved the microphone away, and there was her voice still there carrying through.
I didn't see that.
Now, if you're doing halftime at the Super Bowl, and you got this big production crunch to get things up and down and up and down, and you don't have time for problem. You want to go up there and play air instruments and air vocals and lip sync to your own shit. I could care less because they're not there to see that.
Right.
Right. They're there for the football, and then all the stuff that comes with it. But if you're selling seats,
you better be playing.
You damn well better be playing.
And that's what Grohl was getting at.
Right. And then if they're not doing that, if they're not even meeting their fans halfway, then good for Grohl.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look into it to see if she actually does cheat on that. But I know one thing about those kind of performers like her and other ones that do a lot of dancing. They, it's hard to do that singing.
Like nurses in scrubs. Some of them, and that was an inclusive bit of choreography. Those nurses in scrubs during COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You had fat ones, thin ones, skin ones, big ones, all just sort of doing their thing, and it was all looking sort of like hideously bad. But then, who was this Olympian that just competed in Australia for a breakdancing thing?
Yeah.
Or Paris for the Australian. Did you see that performance?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I saw just what was on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
But on social media, when I went to look it up to see how hideously bad it was all commentary, people talking about it, and showing stills. I want to see, and I first thought of, I don't know who I was talking about, but remember Ali G?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was in England, Channel 4 pilot, 8 weeks ran, and I was there for the very first one because I was so hungover on from Newcastle Brown at a pub the other night. Previous 2 nights, I was still hungover. And I watched it, but that kept me out of trouble for the rest of the contract in England. I was back at the room watching Ali G, and so his sort of character, of course, and many varied characters he has, he goes full in. He's like method acting in his own sort of way, and his breakdancing was deplorably bad, and but it was intentionally bad, and it was like, and the whole setup, it was whole humor.
It was amazing. Huh?
Yes, it was, and it was like. It was sort of Tom Green in a way, and but anyway, I thought maybe this breakdancer for Australia was sort of doing this crazy character thing for which it was like so in depth. You know what I mean? Like she did it with a straight face too, and I didn't see it. I didn't see the performance because there was too many people talking over it and showing stills. But I pontificated
Yeah.
that might be the thing. And but was it as bad as it I saw?
I don't really know. I think I saw what you saw. When I think about it, I saw the parodies of it.
Well, Jess up there, level 2, holding his beers, he saw it. I guess he saw it in real time before the judges even put up their little placards. And he even said it was, and he said it was bad, and you said it was bad. And I would take his opinion as when a non-aficionado sees something as just desperately sort of weak and like, boo, get that off the thing, you know what I mean? But nonetheless, it's anyway. And the world reaction, it was bad. Where was I going with that?
I don't know. How's the live stream going?
It's still going.
Time for some playing now.
Maybe. And maybe I'll get to my train of thought again, you know. Would I go to a woman, at the breakdown scene up in Paris? Mad Cow. 12 or 20 years ago. So, another interesting news. Tomorrow I meet with my old friend, Brad. Hold on.
Okay.
It's rolling.
Yeah.
My old friend Brad from Mystic Caravan fame, son of Bernie. But Brad, I was in England, and I get this. It was sort of an email. It might have been my book. You remember MySpace?
Yeah.
And I had the site on an MP. Remember MP3.com?
No.
You don't remember MP3.com?
No.
All right. So it was the platform for music,
Oh,
fresh,
yeah, okay,
original
that's right.
music.
Yeah.
And so MP3.com allowed you to sell your music, and your music got streamed and played or downloaded, right? And you could cut an album, and people could buy your album. Anyway, so when I registered on MP3.com in '99, I took guitar, took the archetype, took the idiom. MP3.com/guitar. That was my website. Anyway, I was over in England doing some contract work, selling some spas, and trying to sort of introduce my software product, fee-for-service medical office system for podiatry over there at the time. But they were not fee-for-service. They were all under the umbrella of public health everywhere. So that didn't go so well. But anyway, I get this email or some message from some character named Damon Lord and a demo song. All right, and it was a really good song. Damon Lord. Well, that's obviously an alias. Anyway, it took me 10 minutes all the way from the UK to go and do some sort of a Boolean search expression stuff to find out who it was. And so I wrote him, and I didn't call him by his alias. I called him by his real name, Brad. And anyway, that's how we would meet. When I got back, I would work with his band that he was forming and do management stuff and get them gigs in Toronto and shit like that. It was gung-ho. This kid, Brad, every bit as talented as Paul McCartney, as it were, and John. And there I was in Liverpool working, and so the congruences weren't lost. Anyway, good ear, great voice.
He's coming here tomorrow.
No, I'm going there tomorrow. But what I did was,
Where?
oh, to his studio
In Kingston.
in Kingston. And so what I did was I took him a USB stick with, I think it was 11, 12 tracks. Back in 2006, 7, I had gone into the studio, and that song I just played called Mad Cow
Right.
was one of them. But I was so busy starting the guitar festival in Odessa, and then all the stuff I was doing with Dawn's work, DVD sales and all that stuff, and I was sort of spread pretty thin.
Right.
And so, but I had these tunes that I wanted to lay down, and I was just, my idea was, because I hate studios, I hate the sort of the focus on it and redos and all that.
Right.
We have digital technology for crying out loud. Let's punch in, pull that part out, cinch it up together, and make it work. And so what I had done was I laid down a bunch of these tracks. This is like almost 20 years ago. And so I had all this stuff on an old hard drive, a whole album's worth of material, which I've long since forgotten, except for, say, Black Mad Cow there that I just did. And I'm never going to be able to, and there's some of it required some finger calisthenics that were pretty notable.
So does he have this stick?
So I gave him this project, and he's done. And tomorrow I go to listen to the finished work.
Oh, great.
And so I've got a new album coming out that I essentially recorded 20 years ago.
That's cool.
Anyways, and I don't ask me to perform it, but I'll get around to doing what I can. But we'll see how it goes. I'm going to hook up with him tomorrow, and we're going to review it.
That sounds great. It's a good story, you know?
There's some good songs on it.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of time between now and election time, unless somebody pulls a rabbit out of their figurative ass here in Canada. The NDP coalition and the Liberals it's I guess it's like if the boat ain't holding water, you patch it up with some type of paste or whatever, and it's like the inside of that boat, Scotch tape, Band-Aids, and whatever, straw, excrement, whatever, they can keep that boat together floating. At least I try to imagine it that way is not that easy for them. What do you think?
I don't think that I just follow the money, and the money is the pension that he's going to get in February. He's not going to jeopardize that. So the rest is just smoke and mirrors. Now, if I'm wrong about that, I'll be the first to admit it, but I doubt it.
It's like
But it's going to be a close election, though.
it's sort of a hard thing to fathom, though. You know, a group of political people sort of going up on board the bridge of the big Carnival cruise line that everyone's on, and setting the controls for the Heart of the Sun, getting on the lifeboats just at the right moment so they can get their pensions while everyone goes over the veritable edge. I don't know. I think it's I don't follow the money is always a short term and a realistic sort of set of parentheses.
You know, out there, you probably know this lady. I tweeted her picture out today. Joshua and I went out to Verona after church just for something to do, somewhere different to go. We had
a Sunday drive.
So we went out there and we got a burger and a pretzel and some fries and drinks at this chip wagon.
Right.
The lady and her son are there. Put her whole life savings into this. This is her kind of dream. She's got this thing going. I think there was a smattering of cars that were stopping, but I mean, she's selling one burger at a time to make her living. And she was telling me, she was a very positive person, but they didn't have power, and there's getting licensing, and there's all these things. And all I could think about was the fact that she's not on, as a writer, she's not on any sunshine list. All those guys talk about is there's people that are on the sunshine list. They think that the sunshine list of all the taxpayers, people that work for the public sector, this is what it's about. They forget that it's actually that lady and her son that are making a burger one at a time, sending their money back. And then the other story was the people that are buying these cars, paying their taxes on it, getting the licensing, paying the insurance, and yet it turns out the car, at the time that they bought it, it wasn't reported stolen, but it was eventually reported stolen and found in an audit. And then they come back, and not only do they take the car from them, but they tell them, if you try to hide that car or try to impede in any way for us to get your car that you paid for, paid taxes on, have a license for registration, we'll arrest you. We'll take your head, we'll smash it to the sidewalk, we'll take out our baton, and we'll beat you to a pulp. Then we'll put you in court for a year.
Is that what they said to her?
In essence, this is what the letter's saying.
The letter, okay,
yeah,
right. Yes.
I'm paraphrasing,
but it's in writing.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Good to know.
And then they turn around and they say, "Look, we caught the guys that we got these cars back. We gave them back to the rightful owner."
Right.
But they don't say that. What the hell is that? It's like, what about these people that bought the car, paid the taxes? They had no idea. Well, buyer beware. Excuse me? You go to Service Ontario, you're registered, you pay. How much is the tax on that? Oh, let me pay that.
And the information package, from the seller, which is required by law for them to provide, even though they don't, and you got to pay for it yourself. But nonetheless, yes.
It reminds me of the time in Elliott Lake, Ontario.
But just go back to this letter she got. This is a woman that has a vending thing. And
no, this is a different. I'm sort of conflating the stories, but I'm just saying the little guy.
Yeah.
They talk about the Prime Minister, the Premier. They talk about the leader of the opposition. They're all on the bloody sunshine list. Right. They think it's like people on Twitter think that Twitter is the world.
Right.
the sunshine list this world. Aren't you on the sun? What about you on the sunshine list? What about your index pension? Not everybody has that. You don't have that.
No,
You
no.
gotta.
Now, the only time they get out is to kiss babies on campaign trails and photo ops. All they, generally speaking, they're at wine and cheese cocktail parties and they're schmoozing with a certain sort of
But that
yeah.
aside, the world that they govern is everybody's on this sunshine list.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people out there that aren't on it, and they're the ones that are feeding the sunshine list. And I was just going to say about Elliott Lake.
Right.
It reminds me of Elliott Lake. What happened there was I was at that mall at one time. There was an old mall. There was a parking garage. It collapsed, and there was a bunch of people under it.
I remember that. That was
So so it's a horrible thing. So they sent up the Hussar team rescue. Beautiful. All these people from all these different police services, fire, ambulance, paramedics. They get up there, and they never get up there like in 10 minutes. It takes them 2 days to get up there. They get up there,
float planes and everything else. Yeah.
and they get there, and there's a faint tapping underneath the rubble.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Elliott Lake isn't a big place, so that's Emily. That's probably Emily. We haven't seen her around. She was in the parking lot.
She was in the atrium. The last thing. Yeah. Well, okay. Anyway.
So they're gonna dive in there. They're gonna rip it out, and they're gonna rescue her, take her to the hospital, and save her life. Right?
Right.
Oh no! The ministry comes in and says that's not safe for the workers to go in there. The people from Elliott Lake are saying, "Get out of our way. We'll go in and save her." To the heroes that are there, and they say, "You go in there, we'll arrest you." Oh, okay. So they win. They don't arrest you. They dig her out 3 weeks later, and she's dead. And before they leave town, there's quotes in the paper saying, "If you want to come up and thank us, and take a picture with us, and tell us how we're great heroes, go ahead and do that." And then a year after that, they all got medals for bravery because they went in and rescued other people. I think
So I remember the snow caving in a roof in a mall, Elliott Lake, right? We're talking what? We're talking 2010, maybe 2011, something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't remember this bureaucratic malaise based on procedures and crossed T's and dotted I's, getting in the way from somebody that was showing signs of life beneath a heap. And was
too dangerous, they determined, the Ministry of Labor and the Ministry of Safety. And so as a result, the woman died, and they still got their medals, and they got their overtime, and they also went around the town and took pictures as heroes. And so my point is...
Yeah. And just to add to your point,
yeah.
And this is stateside, but New York, that's not so far away, chip wagon, mobile vendor, the person selling their business, all right, they put everything into this business, and they're selling their business. And I guess it's a good enough business that makes them. But the thing is that an immigration, like an illegal, qualifies for a business loan to buy her business at full pop.
Right.
Whereas a bunch of other people that wanted that business that couldn't qualify for the loan,
right,
based on it could have been personal choices they made and their credit limit or whatever. But the point is, even with good credit limits, people were denied loans for this type of business. And but someone without a green card, but with a bank card, and with a temporary driver's license and a government-issued cell phone, can walk into a lender, and be the new type of diverse, inclusive sort of smiling face that is available and summonable for the photo op, for the politician that will stand there in front of the success story of the chip wagon that the guy brought, and no harm or foul to the guy that qualifies for the loan, who just finds himself in sort of this Mary Poppins sort of Walt Disney-esque sort of circumstances in life where, I thought I'd be digging a ditch for the rest of my life, but in America, I stay at Waldorf Hotel, and you've given green card with bank card with money every month, etc. I mean, this whole sort of open society foundation stuff has been well thought out. It's been well greased. It's been well considered. It is happening all around us, and it is ostensibly being done for the sake of diminishing any established tribe, blue eyes, Western Europeans like us, like Anglo-Saxons, blue eyes bad, brown eyes good. It is all to diminish any type of cohesive cultural legacy, history, and so forth, to the point as though make us all feel as though we stepped out into our front yards, but we might as well stepped into a new country. And and for many that came here through planes, trains, automobiles, and other sort of means of access, it is new country. But for us too, it's it's being organized like a wedding is being planned. You know what I'm saying? Like I've organized the Canadian Guitar Festival, so and other events. I know what goes into planning and logistics and so forth. And even though for the first time for the Canadian Guitar Festival in 2004, I was logistically ready and capable to handle 5,000 people, and maybe 50 showed up, I was ready. And so all of that stuff that is happening right now based on the laws that aren't being enforced, these charges that are being laid on people for which, don't fit the sort of, the nice profile of the smiling, one world kumbaya, let's all hold hands and so forth. Well, the last man standing is the United States. This country, Canada, has lost its way. It really has. But we haven't lost our heart. We've just lost our way. And the heart of Canada, this population for which you and I are both members, that has sort of born into a Commonwealth country with the feeling that we're on probation. You know what I mean? We don't really have an identity. We're just nice and polite. We may apologize for making eye contact in grocery stores, and we're civil, and we're to a point of, how do you make a Canadian apologize? Step on his foot? Okay, that. But nonetheless, the heart we have is huge, and if there was ever any example of it, it would be in the trenches, in 2 world wars, and ask any other soldier that fought alongside Canadians, in the heart and thick of things. Canadians got balls. Lonnie McDonald and the hockey player going down the road, doctoring jobs for you, lawyering jobs for me. Canada's lost its way, but it still has heart. The United States is the last man standing for this whole thing that's about to be. We're 10 seconds away from continuity of government, which means that some guy in Cheyenne Mountain that's running the show for Mexico, Canada, U.S., where all charter rights and all laws and liberties are suspended at a moment's notice. So here we are, we're on the edge of our seats. And we're looking for political solutions on the one hand. Well, that's on Channel 6. From Channel 6 to Channel 9. We've got the spiritual solutions on the other hand. Well, that's really on Channel 1. There's no such thing as a military solution. Was there ever? If you want to defend your house there, and your borders. Too much complexity, too much novelty, too many things. What was that?
Some footage from 9/11.
Hold on, everybody.
How'd you end up there?
Let's talk about 2 things. First, Afghanistan.
It's time for another song.
I think it's time to.
Was Jay watching the movie?
No, I'm just gonna go in pretty soon.
I think I don't know why I feel so relatively underrepresented if that makes sense, in the general population sense of where we are on planet Earth, in terms of the real bad things that are sort of happening, but more than that, we're being foisted on a Carnival cruise ship, and set the controls for the heart of the sun. The political class are on the lifeboats. It's like we're being driven to something, and people are not awake enough to sort of see it. If they are, maybe they're not deep enough to articulate it. But and that's okay. But if you get that feeling in the knot in your stomach that kept you out of that dark alley, like that time it did before, right? People have got the knot in their stomach, and they know it's just Marshall McLuhan will say this about him. I didn't know really what he was on about. I mean, he was a name, he was a brand, he was, the medium was a message, yeah. But in terms of the depth of what he was talking about, like, that scared academics. After a while, he was like, ooh, where he's going with this is like, it was making too much sense. It was like so much, the implications of it were so huge, it started to scare academics, even though he was brandied about and was, toast of the town and spoke in various things, starting with the printing press and media and information reaching other ears and cohesion and all this other stuff, which is sort of the summation of that link I sent you about the poetry of falling apart by J.R. Bob Dobbs. And Marshall McLuhan had no sort of religious background or anything like that, but did, towards the end of his life, come across the idea that it's said in the Bible that alone, if you're alone and you cry out to God, and in your own way, you can expect an answer back. So he thought about that, and he went for a walk in the woods one day, and he did that, and he heard back. And having no sort of religious tradition or any training or any sort of real interesting understanding on the spiritual levels, well, he did what anyone would do in his shoes. He became a Roman Catholic. This is the point being that he answered something or followed through on a hunch, something that was told to him that he read, and he tested the hypothesis out. And he didn't do it in public. Admittedly, he was alone, so he didn't look ridiculous if he didn't hear back, but maybe you don't hear back right away. Maybe he heard back the next day. I'm not sure specifically what the linear sort of line of things were that occurred for him to sort of hear back. But when he heard back, he did, and that's what people need to understand right now. If they can see far enough past,
They can.
well, if they got the knot in their stomach, that intuition, that instinct, nobody ever celebrates ever ignoring their gut instincts. Right? I broke my leg playing golf, ignoring my gut instincts, which wasn't anything other than God himself telling me not to play golf. And that's another day and another story. And that was 1991. We're going to sign off for now. Say hello, Joe. Joe in the dark, in the shadows, and the creepers, and the peepers, and the puppets. Well, I'll let the battery run out. I'm not really that concerned. We live in interesting times, as the fortune cookie has more than once told us. So, political solutions. How long can we kick the can down the road? I'd like to kick the can down the road much longer, in some ways. Is anyone ready for, the singularity? I don't care if you're Ray Kurzweil himself or any of these guys. That I don't think they're ready for it either. And they're sort of hedging their bets on it being something that sort of more or less fits in line with something they're trying to shape, if not fully trying to predict the shape for which it may take. We live in a simulation. There's bleed in the code. good that I have a good buddy, Joe Warmington, a columnist, who can bounce some of my crazy ideas off of. But I think Joe would say, don't put words in his way, that more often than not, I've been right. The floor is yours. He's not even paying attention. I was looking to get my Perkin stamp, man. Come on, stamp my Perkin. just Dust My Broom by Elmore James. Or the theme from the Deer Hunter. Worth looking up. No, I don't. Nice guitar playing, bro. Thank you very much. And, are you sure you want to stop streaming? I don't know.
Well, the thing is that thing off? Like, I was a little bit worried that